Um, I am Courtney Scarborough. I'm Deputy Director here at NCEAS, and I'm joined by Heather Lahr. She's our Project Manager, Program Manager Extraordinaire for the Morpho program, among other things. So we're going to chat with you, go through some slides today, and then throughout the slides, feel free to type any questions you have into the Q&A. And then at the end, we'll also save time for more questions. So we really want you guys to get as much information as you can today. So we have slides, but really we want to make sure that we can answer any questions. There are some, subtleties about this program that we want to make sure we get across to you. And we know this is sort of like a time of uncertainty for a lot of people. But the funding for Morpho has nothing to do with federal funding. So we are definitely moving forward with funding working groups this year and continuing the program. So at least that science can move forward, which is great. So I'll get started. Let me pull up the slides and we'll jump right in. So thanks again for joining, and let me share my screen. Okay. Hi, everybody. We're gonna just go through our call for proposals for the Morpho program. So the deadline for this year is April 30th, 2025. And we are happy to answer any questions here. And then also we have office hours weekly on Wednesdays, actually in this time slot, the 10 to 11 Pacific time slot. So you can email us questions, you can ask questions here, you can come to our office hours if you want to have a chat or even run ideas by us and think about working group members, things like that. So we're here for any and all questions. And I'll just start by giving you a little overview of the agenda. So we'll just start with some background on what Morpho is, what synthesis science working groups are, how to apply the evaluation we use to choose working groups, and then how you can stay updated, and then we'll jump into questions. So the Morpho program is really focused on convening synthesis science working groups to do science in the service of environmental management. So it's really kind of at the intersection of science and management, and we expect working groups to be a diverse group of people from across that spectrum. So far, we have funded 7 working groups. Our 2022 working groups are actually just wrapping up right now, and that was one around prescribed burns in the West and one around grassland bird conservation across the Americas. And then our 2023 and 2024 working groups are still underway. 2024 working groups actually just had their first meeting in January. And so that's everything from pollinators and native landscaping and guides to do that, to a kelp restoration, global kelp restoration framework, sustainable fuel breaks in the Arctic, global trade and unsustainable fisheries, specifically focused mostly on rays and sharks, and then thiamine deficiency in aquatic systems. So it's a really diverse group of projects, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things across all ecosystems, all spatial scales, all types of science and management. So just to give you sort of a flavor of what we've funded so far. And we also want to kind of let everybody know that NCEAS is celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. So we have been around since, we started, we were the first NSF funded synthesis center in the world, and we were funded in 1995. And since then, our model has been copied at over 30 synthesis centers. So, the model has really been productive and shown to be successful at making effective science and bringing effective science to management. And in this time, we've published, almost 4,000 actually scientific papers. Our top 10 scientific papers have 115,000 citations, and we've hosted 11,000 researchers from 70 countries and had 200 postdoc fellows here, among, other things. But all that to say that we've really worked hard over the last 30 years to develop a model of synthesis science that works, and we're excited to kind of keep that model going through this Morpho program and really expand it out to not just, core science but also science that can really hit the ground running and be applied. So that's what the Morpho program is kind of all about. So now I'll just jump into first sort of what is synthesis science and what are working groups. So synthesis science is the act of combining data, theories, and tools to gain new insights and answers using existing data. So no new data collection for this. For synthesis science, we take what exists already and put it together in new and interesting ways to answer new questions and come up with new exciting results that people haven't really thought of before. So it's really well suited when there's a really broad base of existing data, existing theories, ideas, and questions that people have already identified that they want to answer and just need new ways of bringing groups together to look at these types of questions. And it's really great at helping researchers untangle what the known components are of the question and what the unknown components are, what data exist and what data you wish exists. So we also often think about synthesis science as, taking what exists, and then the whole process also can usually serve as a gap analysis of like, we wish these data existed, and this is how moving forward we would recommend, finding new data so that we can kind of fill those gaps that we identified as we went through this synthesis science process. And as I mentioned, NCEAS has been around for the last 30 years, and it really led to a cultural shift in how science was done. Before 1995, science was kind of done individual labs, individuals themselves, siloed in their own spaces. It was not very open. It was not as diverse as it is now. And so NCEAS has sort of been there as science has changed and helped cause that change. So more open data, more open science, more teams, more collaboration. And that's sort of what we help and we hope we foster with these working groups. So the working groups are teams of usually 12 to 16 people across all types of backgrounds, anything that across the science to management spectrum. And as we've looked at working groups through time, we've actually had sociologists come in and like study the scientists themselves to say, what makes a working group work? What is the sort of special sauce that has made working groups so productive? And the science has shown that these sort of 6 key components are a lot of the reasons why working groups have been extra productive over this time. So they're diverse teams. Bringing people to NCEAS from all your respective institutions and having a neutral ground where you can really not only get away from the day-to-day, demands of your life, but also you're not bringing anything with you from your institution. There isn't like home turfs. Everyone comes. It's a really fun place to be too. So there's sort of this like convivial, nice feeling here, and we hope and we try to facilitate that too. So we encourage people to do social things during the working groups, after the working groups. You have happy hours and dinners, and it's really in those moments where you're being social and getting out of your kind of day to day that you're able to dive in deeply and also kind of come up, expand your mind and think about new ideas. So NCEAS also offers a lot of support while you're here and also while you're going through this process. So we have staff support, data trainings, logistical support, and just the in-person meetings, the connection, and then the networking you're able to do have really accelerated the science that comes out of these working groups. So for this call this year, we actually have 3 calls. We have our regular annual call for proposals, which is any synthesis idea focused on management relevant science. And we have the special AI for the planet call, which is focused on AI for climate change. So this is at the intersection of climate change, biodiversity, and AI. And this is in collaboration with USGS, this specific call. And then we also have a special joint international synthesis center call this year. So many of the synthesis centers across the world that are kind of part of this consortium are putting out calls for interactions between biodiversity and climate change. So we hope to bring in one of these groups. And then there's also sort of a meta synthesis group that will be formed across all the international groups for this one as well. So when we think about ideal questions to be asking for a synthesis group, I like to kind of think about this, the best types of questions kind of have this twofold piece because you get great science out of them and you also get personal rewards. So addressing a topic, think about a group that you've been wanting to meet with and address a topic that you guys have just really been excited about but haven't had the resources to bring together. So, you have this idea, if we brought this person from this institution and this person over here and they have these data, we brought everyone together, we could do some really cool stuff. We just haven't had the time and resources. Like, this is the perfect opportunity to bring those people together and work on that thing. And it's also great if you can think about a question that you would like to address and is already part of your job so that the working group outcomes help you do your day-to-day job better. And if you kind of have those two criteria in mind while you're formulating these questions, I think it will allow for you to kind of move forward with confidence and excitement and also, feel like this process isn't on top of everything else you have to do, but it really helps you get your job done and in an exciting way. So from the NCEAS perspective, we provide funding for the meeting. So all travel expenses are covered by NCEAS. That's, hotels, flights, per diem, food, everything. Trainings. So teams can participate in collaborative data science trainings, communication, facilitation trainings. So we have a series of trainings that we offer to all working groups throughout the year, where it's a webinar format. Come and join us, and we offer all types of trainings, collaborating in GitHub, how to set up GitHub with your team, how to facilitate a great synthesis science working group, things like that. And then we also can tailor trainings to your specific group. If you do a training with us and you find that it would be great to have a follow-on training or you have specific needs, we can also, depending on what expertise we have in-house here, we can also offer trainings that are tailored. We have IT support, servers, we can help with that type of thing. And then we also have facilitation support and advice. So we can help you develop your agenda. We can help facilitate portions of your meeting, especially the first day. We really think having facilitation on the first day for setting up your program for success is a great way to go about it. I think, Heather, do we have a question? I think we might, but if not,
Yes, I saw a
okay.
hand, but I'm asking them to
Oh, okay.
put it into the Q&A section so that I can
Okay.
read it out loud. So
Okay. Thank you. We'll keep going, but feel free to interrupt whenever, Heather.
will do.
Thanks. Okay. So as I mentioned, we do these trainings that we hope will just sort of not only accelerate the science you're doing as part of this working group, but bring new skills that you can take with you moving forward, especially around collaboration, like science collaboration and how to facilitate and do better team science. So we're excited about these, and we've added more trainings every year. So also would love to hear what people would like in terms of future trainings. And for those of you who may be familiar with NCEAS already, we moved during COVID. So we have a brand new facility that we got to design specifically after 25 years of being in our old building and doing all these working groups. We were able to kind of remodel this building to the way we think a building should facilitate collaboration. So it's a pretty cool space. It has a huge outdoor terrace on the third floor, great views, so you can do some outside meetings. We have a large classroom downstairs. So we have our regular conference spaces, plus, our meeting rooms. Plus, we also have a large conference classroom that can fit up to 90 people, but most comfortably like 45 to 50 people. So we have a nice, space for collaborative meetings. We also have as we mentioned, like the staff support to help you as you meet. Okay, so what we don't fund. So the unique thing about working groups is we are actually not giving money to your institution. All of the money stays with NCEAS and goes to individuals. So if you are used to having to go through your sponsored projects to get proposal approval, you do not have to do that usually with this program because none of the money is actually changing hands to your institution. It's just going to individuals. We aren't able to fund salaries. There's a lot of equity issues with that, and really the benefits of the working group are to be able to do your work better. And we aren't able to, we don't fund collection of new data or field research because this is really focused on using existing data for synthesis. And like I said, funds aren't transferred and spent at the investigator's home institution. So the overhead and all that isn't a part of this process. And in terms of outcomes, it's up to the working group what an effective outcome is and how to best translate the science they're doing to the audiences, especially the management audiences that are hopefully part of the group and also the broader management community. So products like, models, databases, briefs, publications, policy recommendations for natural resource management, engagement with the NCEAS community. So we have a resident scientist community here in person of 45 to 50 people at any one time working on all types of different environmental science issues. So we love having working group NCEAS interactions. That can happen informally. We have a coffee clatch every Tuesday morning where we all come together, have coffee, do announcements, and hopefully meet the working group that is here and get to hear a little bit about what they're doing. We also have roundtables or like our seminar series. So when working groups are here, we hope sometimes people will present on the work they're doing. And then, we have happy hours sometimes out on the terrace that people can come and join. We love when the working groups can join us for these like social events too. Um, Another outcome is just like enhancing your network and expanding your network of people that you work with. So throughout a working group, many of the people in your working group you may already know and have collaborations with, but hopefully this will expand your, horizon of collaborations and really help you find new directions that you want your research to go in the future too. And through the trainings, we hope that everyone will gain a little bit more data science, a little bit more science communication, a little bit more facilitation skills. And we hope to support that throughout the 2 years and help those grow as time goes on too. So just to kind of give you an idea of what a working group trajectory looks like, we wanted to just sort of show you this, successful roadmap of sort of what a successful working group looks like. So, before you even meet here in person, you should align expectations. Think about what communications tools you're going to be using. Are you just going to be sticking to Gmail and email? Do you want to hop into Slack? Maybe even start thinking about if GitHub is part of your, not only your kind of coding and collaboration in that sense, but also your project management. Everyone can really use GitHub in different ways, and it can be a great project management tool for a team, like as part of a working group. So just, a few pre-meeting emails, maybe a Zoom call or two before you're here in person, and then you have your first meeting here in person at NCEAS where you can refine your questions. You can develop sort of a research plan and a communications plan throughout your 2 years. And then between meeting one and meeting two, there should be some analysis, some communication, some writing. It's not, the really intensive work that gets done is in person meetings, but between in-person meetings, there should be some collaboration and make sure everybody's kind of all headed in the same direction and focusing on this in between times. And then, meetings two and meetings three are here in person at NCEAS, and hopefully you can kind of have a trajectory for your working group where by the end of meeting three, you're working on outputs, maybe doing some writing, maybe even talking about what journals you're going to submit to, things like that. And, you know, All of this can happen throughout the 3 meetings, but we want to just sort of show that there are 3 meetings here in person. You should be planning for those intensive times, really focused on what is best to do while you're here in person and then in between times, what can be done virtually that would be effective use of people's time as well. Um, Working group member expectations. So over 2 years, you should expect to come to NCEAS 2 to 3 times for in-person meetings. And then, like I mentioned, contributions between meetings, that can be virtual meetings, analysis writing, things like that, just to make sure everybody is still engaged throughout the whole 2 years. We want clear communication. You should agree on authorship guidelines, ground rules, and you have to agree to NC's Code of Conduct, which we share regularly, and then agree to fair data principles. So we expect data to be open, data products at least to be open, and hopefully uploaded onto a data repository, whether that's one of NC's or our Data One network or beyond that. But we really want to make sure that all this science is open and available for the next working group to use and build on and form new science after that. So the nitty gritty here of proposal writing and how to apply. We have created lots of materials for supporting working groups through this process. So from a proposal checklist. So what do you want to ask yourself? What do you need to do when you're writing a proposal to make sure it's successful? So we have a checklist, and then we also have a little guide on our website. If you check those out, I think it will help you sort of make sure you're confident in your submission and have thought through the kind of main details of what would make for a successful proposal. And as I mentioned, we have office hours. So as you go through this process, you can also just come and chat with us and we can talk about the proposal checklist and make sure we're hitting all the important points. And we just really want to support you in this development. We hope that people who have never applied before for a working group, never even been part of a working group, feel confident that they can apply to this and be successful. We don't want this to just be people who have participated previously. We want that too, but we really want everybody to be able to feel like they can come together and do a working group here at NCEAS because it is so beneficial for so many reasons, like on the science side, on the professional development side, that we want everyone to, feel confident in the process. So we have a proposal and budget template that you can fill out to make sure, make things easy. There's an order of operations for how you want to write this proposal, and we have that all laid out there. We have a writing guidance document that I mentioned before that's on our website. It's hyperlinked here, and we'll share these slides on our website as well after this. We have office hours, and there are very minimal reporting requirements. So the proposal process, we hope, is not very onerous at all and way less onerous than maybe other proposal writing processes. And then we don't have very onerous reporting requirements either, because we just want you to be doing cool, awesome science in service of management. And we don't have too much in terms of like reporting back to us on funding requirements or anything like that. And as I mentioned, there's no need for approval through academic institutions. So there isn't that kind of like process beforehand that needs to happen for a lot of institutions, unless you have very specific needs for approval outside of, just for participating. And last kind of detail here is our evaluation criteria and our review timeline. So our timeline is April 30th. Proposals are due. So that's still a good month and a half away, which is nice. We will have a scientific advisory council that will meet in May. And that is a group of people who review all proposals based on the criteria we have listed here. And they give their scores for all of these criteria. And then we all come together for an afternoon to talk through all of the proposals and select top proposals to suggest to the NC's leadership for funding. Then early summer, midsummer, we'll announce the awards this year. And then we hope working group first meetings will happen in fall of 2025. So this year, fall. Um, and that's a general timeline. First working group meetings, we hope as soon as you kind of get the news that you have been awarded, that's when you start thinking about like, okay, but when can we all come together to meet at NCEAS? So hopefully fall till before the end of the year of 2025. And all of these criteria are weighted equally in the initial review, and then the discussion sometimes we'll have a discussion around which components people think which proposals rise to the top as well. So with that, I'll stop here, take questions, and then here's sort of ways to stay connected as after we hang up today. Hi,
Awesome.
Heather.
Thanks, Courtney. I've been answering questions as we go, but if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A now, and we will answer them live instead of typing to you. Can you actually, Courtney, go back to that contact info slide?
Oh, yep.
And we will be sending out this recording to this group, and we will be posting it on our website as well. So if people were not able to make it, feel free to you can share it with others.
Okay. Yep.
Are you just going to read them and answer them, or would you
Oh, I
like me?
actually can't see them.
Oh, great. I will read them. Okay.
Thank you.
In
Sorry.
in the past, Morpho had an emphasis on science in the service of indigenous groups. Is that still a focus for some or all of the three calls this year?
Yes, definitely. Every single group that has been funded has some Indigenous participation, and it's not like a specific criteria that we have listed on our criteria. But when you start to think about, like, I think the way to think about putting a working group together is who are the people that we need to have in the room to make sure that we are like capturing all the perspectives and important information to answer this question. And, most often that includes Indigenous groups because so much of what happens impacts Indigenous groups and they have such long running knowledge of these systems. So it isn't something that is required, but it has been something that has been a part of all the working groups thus far.
Great, thank you. And would the funding be applicable for science communication slash outreach as like making an online tool for public or policy use?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think just to elaborate on that, like we encourage a range of outputs from this. So as Courtney mentioned, it could be a data set, but we also do have specific communications trainings for working groups to help with like making outreach tools and things like that. So it doesn't all have to be just a scientific paper, although we really love those as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we just
okay.
want to make sure that whatever you produce is like tailored to the audience that you're trying to reach with this science, and just making sure that however you're thinking about your end products, they're the most effective for this audience.
And you mentioned in the checklist, have you considered the need for working group facilitation? Could you elaborate on what this means? Like, do we have one picked out, or what do we mean?
Yes. So we have we have started basically at least facilitating the first day of every working group. We have facilitators here in-house at NCEAS that are, specifically focused on facilitating work synthesis science working groups. So Heather and I will both be a part of that team. And also many of you may know Carrie Capel, who is a professional facilitator that's part of NCEAS. So the three of us will and beyond us will help facilitate, especially the first day of the first meeting, but can also help with agenda planning from there on out, other, suggested facilitation opportunities, things like that. So we found that facilitation, especially the first day, can make a huge difference in sort of making sure everybody's rowing in the same direction. So we think it's a great thing. And then we also offer facilitation trainings, like we mentioned. So helping you increase your ability to facilitate science like this too.
Yeah, I think in general, NCEAS recognizes that not everyone has the facilitation skills, and that's fine. Everyone has kind of their skill set. So we provide the training to maybe help get everybody on the same page, but then we will also work with you on your first agenda to really make sure that the meeting gets kicked off on the right foot. And then you can kind of take those skills and run with them for the rest of the meetings, or you can work with us and say, we're having a lot of external stakeholders. We think we could really use help with this. We're too close. So we're kind of here for helping out with facilitation, but it's good for you as somebody proposing it to think through when you might need facilitation and make a plan for that as well. Um, how many group members should be involved in the proposal development for it to be successful? Can any of the 12 to 16 members be identified after if funding was received?
Yes. So it's great to, go into the process thinking about who you want to collaborate with and who's the best group of people to have in the room to make sure you're successful. If there are roles and responsibilities that you know are just essential or really would be really, really great to have in the room, but you haven't identified those people yet, put that in your proposal. There's a template for how to write, or there's a template for all your participants. And if you know that you really want somebody who's focused on climate science or who's really focused on, human well-being indicators, and but you don't know that person, put that in the table, like human well-being indicator specialist. And then we know that you're thinking about the fact that this is not the full um, list of people who you think you need in the room. You also need some more expertise, and we can work with you or give you more time after you're funded to help find those people that can really bring the expertise you're looking for.
And we do encourage, if you do put people's names down, that you've talked with them and you've shared with them what a working group is. And we actually have a working group member expectations document that you can share with them. Um, and so, we kind of say, like, make sure that people have looked at this and they agree that to be part of a working group, it's basically a 2-year commitment, and you will be coming out to Santa Barbara and you will be doing some work in between these meetings. So we definitely, if a person's name is on the sheet, we encourage you to check in with them that they're going to be part of this. All right. Do we fund basic science / theoretical research working groups if the research is based on data synthesis without an explicit applied or management goal?
This is a tricky one because it just kind of depends. So I would encourage you to come to an office hours or kind of write more detail about what your ideas are. And when we talk about like applied or management goals, it's not like we expect this to be on the ground science that's going to be on the ground immediately during and after this working group. We just want to make sure that this science is thinking about the management implications and is useful beyond just the scientific realm and can be expanded to that there's a vision for how the science will impact the real world is what we're looking for.
And I do think in general, to get there, it's helpful to co-develop that science with managers, but as Courtney says, it depends. So
Yeah.
Uh, okay, that is all the questions in the chat. I will give everybody a few more minutes as I stall to see if there's any final questions. Again, we will be sharing this recording, and our website has all of the templates and all of the information on it if you're interested there. I am not seeing any other questions. Oh, wait, here we go. See, I knew if I stalled long enough. Would there be a separate working groups happening between the meetings with other stakeholders? Would there be financial support for those meetings?
We do not fund stakeholder engagement outside of NCEAS, and that's sort of because I think NCEAS is really like where we can offer our expertise and support is in synthesis science and working groups. So we don't really have the expertise for those stakeholder engagement workshops. I think we could talk about how to bring in more funding for that or give ideas on that, but it's not within the scope of this.
Great. And do you support working groups that are trying to develop infrastructure for scientific collaboration, like a data hub, ontology, interoperability framework?
Yes, I think especially with these new calls, that's a possibility. I think we still want to just make sure you have a vision for how this could impact, future environmental management, but especially with the additional calls, like I think there's room for this type of output as well.
Are there pathways that NCs can help with to associate a funded postdoc with a working group?
I, I'm unclear if this question means there is a postdoc who is funded and wants to be a part of the working group.
I think the question, or there was an earlier question about do we fund postdocs for the working group? And no, we do not fund salaries. So I'm assuming this question means if they are a working group, how can they find a postdoc to help with the work that is already funded?
Yes. So we can help facilitate collaborations. We have a large postdoc community here. So if there are postdocs that may be interested in being a member of your working group, but we encourage working groups to not put everything on a postdoc if they are a part of a working group. We want postdocs to be considered like full members of the working group, and not kind of only the workhorses here. So there are ways that we can connect you with postdocs, and kind of explore ideas, but we don't have we don't have like a way to fund postdocs through NCs through this program right now. Okay. Let's see. I see that we have another question here. I think Heather might be frozen, so I'll keep getting to these. Can we list outside collaborators in our proposal who engage virtually but not be a part of the 12 to 16 people attending in person? Yes, please do. If there are collaborators, just make that relationship clear and help us understand like who those people are, how they're going to interact, and why those people. So think of them as working group members, but let us know that they're only participating virtually. Um, and we also ask as part of the proposal process for you to write about how you will ensure participation and collaboration that's like inclusive throughout the entire process of your working group. So I would also make sure that in that section you say, you know, the way we're going to make sure that these people are engaged is via X, Y, and Z so that we can understand like how you're going to manage that group dynamic of virtual plus in person. So just put that in that section as well so we understand. Okay. Do the NC's trainings have to be outlined specified at the proposal stage or can they be decided after? So we have a whole series of trainings that we offer every year. So those we will just, we can show you a list and we actually have a whole website dedicated to our trainings that have the training materials, recordings of each training, and any other information about those trainings that we can share beyond this group too. But in terms of additional tailored trainings, those do not need to be specified ahead of time. We can work with you throughout the process if you need additional trainings. And then I see, did you say that all the funded work groups so far have had participation from Indigenous groups or tribal members? I think everyone has had some participation and input from Indigenous groups, um, except for maybe one. But uh, yeah, I think that every group has. Okay, Heather told me she lost power. Her power went out, so no more Heather. Um, but any other questions? I think if not, I think we'll stop here. We really welcome you to sign up for office hours. Email us if office hours don't work for you. We can set up another time. So reach out. And thanks so much. Appreciate you all being here and really looking forward to your proposals. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.